Sound check. 1, 2, red, blue. It was the time when the Marvel movies were really in full swing, and everybody was talking about superpowers. What superpower would you like to have? And I was thinking about it, and I was saying, oh, it would be really cool to be invisible. Or maybe it would be fun to fly. All of a sudden, like the Lord cut in on me, and he said, you have a superpower. Really? Me? What superpower could I have? And he said, you have the best superpower of all. You have the superpower of love. I said, oh, I didn't know that. It seemed kind of like God telling Joshua through an angel that he was a mighty man of valor. I didn't feel like I had very much love going, but that's what God said. And he said, tell other people, because that's a superpower available to everybody. And I thought back about my love journey with God. And I thought back to my early days of teaching when I had a student in my class named Becky. There was nothing about Becky that I actually liked. Attractive enough young girl, but she was unkempt all the time. She had a whiny voice. She would complain about her sister all the time, say,
Punky's bought the bike. Punky won't let me get on the swing.
I was saying to God, I'm really not going to enjoy going back to school tomorrow and seeing this kid. And the Lord listened, and then he kind of said, okay, do you think she's going to be any different tomorrow? And I said, no, I don't think so. And he said, who do you think is going to have to change? And I said, that would be me. And he said, bingo, it's going to be you or it's going to be the same old stuff. And he said, tell you what, I'll give you a hint. When you look at her, think of one thing you like. I said, okay, that's going to be hard, but okay. So Monday morning rolled around and she came running up the walk and I checked her up and down and I went, nice shoes, Becky. And she lit up and I was like, whoa, that's a change. And as the day went on, I began to notice her doing things. And she's 4-year-old, so by then most kids are really drawing things and all, but she was coloring and she was just dragging her hand back and forth across the paper. All of a sudden, I saw her with new eyes. And I said, ooh, you really got a rhythm when you're doing that. Boy, it's like you're dancing with your hands. And she was just so excited about the thought of dancing with her hand that she approached this coloring with a whole new vigor and a whole new joy. It was real change in her. And in the next couple days, it became easier and easier for me to find things that I liked. And other people began to notice the change in her. They began to say, that Becky's not half bad. She's actually kind of fun to be around. It really did become clear that she was becoming a different person. Since then, I have learned that we can pull the gold out of people. Everybody is a handmade creation of God. I was raised to be snobby. I've been in all kinds of levels of society, but in my younger years, I was in the higher levels of society. And we were sort of trained to judge people by even the smallest things I could judge people on. So God undid all of that. And he said, no, you're going to look at people as handmade creations now. And I remember sometimes staring at someone and thinking, I'm not really enjoying anything about you. And God would say, well, focus in on their eyebrows, focus in on their eyelashes. Understand that every piece of hair there is hand done by me. Focus on their head of hair. I know how many hairs there are. I design them. I design the color. I design the placement. And realize what a stunning creation that person you're staring at is. And I would go, oh, wow. And it really began to change my interaction with people. Maybe not as much as I would like, and was I always true to that? No. But it really did, when I focused in on that, begin to change how I was. God opened up and showed me that if someone's really annoying to me, it's because they're a little too close to home. I was a latchkey kid. I wasn't taken care of. I was every bit like her. What I didn't like in her was actually what I didn't like in myself. And everybody wants to be loved for who they are. God makes it very clear that He is love and that we have to love each other. And if we want to be forgiven, we'll be forgiven in the same way we forgive. He has the story about the servant who was forgiven billions of dollars. He goes out, so relieved and happy that God forgave him all of that. And he runs into a servant who owed him like 10 cents. And he throws that servant in jail and demands that he pay him back every cent. And the other people that were watching, the other servants, said, "This is terrible. This guy just got forgiven everything, and now he won't forgive this little bit from somebody else." God says, if you don't forgive, if you're like this wicked servant, he calls him, then you're going to be handed over to the torturers, and he will extract the payment and torture. That seems a weird thing because you don't think of Jesus and God as being like that, but that's in the Bible. I know that the years that I didn't forgive people were years that I had a kind of torment inside my soul, because I wasn't willing to let go of that unforgiveness, to really access forgiveness and really access love, and then really giving forgiveness and giving love. All of that ties in together. So Becky, if you're out there somewhere, I hope that my time that I spent with you, I hope that my seeing you through God's eyes instead of my own judgmental eyes really made a difference in your life, and you got to go on and enjoy your life more because of it. And you were an inspiration. You really did change my life. I want you to know that. Thank you. Thanks for listening.